I hereby declare Beth and Joanne to be lawfully married.
Just one of those historic moments today for couples in New Jersey. And as we expand our look at the issues now to a national perspective, once again, I can't remember another issue here, social issue or whatever, where opinions have changed so much so fast. Take a look at some of these numbers. These latest Gallup poll numbers show that 54% of Americans support same-sex marriage. And again, that number is nationwide. But as recently as 4 years ago, you go back to 2009, 57% of Americans opposed same-sex marriage. Same question, but look how much it changed in a 4-year window. You go back to 2005, that same number, 59% opposed it, and in 96, more than 2/3 said no. Now just think about that. It all begs the question, when will the rest of the country, and more specifically, the GOP, get on board with this issue? Now, among those in the Republican Party who support marriage equality, you've got Papa Bush here, George Herbert Walker Bush, Dick Cheney, that's right, you heard me right, Illinois Senator Mark Kirk, Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski, Ohio Senator Rob Portman, Laura Bush, Colin Powell, former presidential candidate John Huntsman. And, you know, I want to, David, talk about that because in many ways we've seen this play out. There's that family dynamic where people who might have felt strongly one way, and I think there's a lot of it's generationally, of course, you know, but even in a family, I mean, look at the Cheneys, for example. Dick Cheney, one of his daughters, is lesbian, and he's changed his opinion because of his child. But his daughter, who's running for Senate, doesn't support same-sex marriage, and they're all under the same roof. Then you look at the Bushes. You've got father and wife, father and I guess his daughter-in-law, who disagree with his son. And we can debate about how strong W's opposition really is, but it really speaks to it. The more that people know someone personally, whether it's a family member, a friend, a coworker, opinions change on this issue. And you look at family trees, I think if we ask people under the age of 25, it's probably 75, 80% who support it, if not even higher. It's a matter of when, not if, isn't it?
It is a it is a generational thing, and a lot of this can be attributed to, in fact, so many people coming out. There are people now who would never have thought of coming out earlier. It's a safer space, and the more people see relatives, their doctors, their pharmacists, the people that they deal with, their colleagues, who are out, and they get to know them and say, oh, okay. This way people who come to work one day and they don't have to hide what they did over the weekend. They can say, yeah, I was out with my boyfriend. We had a great time. And nobody bats an eye. A lot of it has to do with the environment over the past 15 years, with people feeling okay to come out and be out. And that's where, as you mentioned, Richard, when we know that family members, people that we love, are gay, we want to protect them. And many of the rules that are against marriage equality are hurting people. They hurt these loved ones. And so that is why this kind of tidal wave, this tsunami, if you will.
I think there's also, as you just said, it's different if it's a unnamed object. But all of a sudden, if you talk about somebody's brother, or talk about somebody's friend, or about somebody's daughter, now you're messing with family, and it changes regardless of your politics. And we've seen that play out. Now, sometimes you'd like the political courage to be a little bit braver. I mean, I remember, Andrew, in the case of Rob Portman, he waited till after an election before he said something. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on a private matter, but still, it takes more to stand up before the electorate and say, you know, it's my kid, and he's just as good as your kid, and he should be able to marry whoever he wants, regardless of his sexuality. But I think that's a matter, even in Republican circles, that's not as politically suicidal as I think some people believe.
You know, it depends, I think, on the level of the race and what race. I mean, the very few, I'm not sure that there's a Republican current House member who is in favor of same-sex marriage, but you have 3 senators who only have to face re-election every 6 years. I don't believe I found a single Republican governor who supports same-sex marriage because it's closer to home. It depends on the race, depends on how frequently you have to come before voters. It baffles me that there's still going to be states that are going to be the last state.
But I think that's a major political mystery, Dominic. And I'm not. This is not my personal opinions because I've never got why people care. Worry about your own lives, really. I mean, marriage ain't easy for anybody. You worry about your own here instead of somebody else's, right. Okay? But anyway, that said, I think if a Republican governor stood up and said, "Yeah, I'm for it. And you got a problem with, let's get it up on the table here. But my aide, my brother, whoever it is, they're just as good as you. I think they'd be surprised out there because, you know, there's more of an acceptance even in the red states of this than there isn't. And I think if they want to get the youth vote, they want to expand the base and stuff, the faster they get. Look what happened with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They got rid of it. I must have missed locust and famine here when the military let people serve openly. There wasn't a peep about it. The issue disappeared in 2 weeks, right? I mean, NBA player comes out. People protesting, putting up bars in front of the locker room. No one's picked him up yet, but that's because I think he stinks. But, you know, not because he's gay. So my only point is, people aren't picking up on the national signs of this, and I don't think it's politically as dangerous as some people think.
I couldn't agree with you more. It does require political will and courage, just like it required courage for our friends in the gay community and lesbian community, as you just pointed out, to, if you will, come out of the closet. But that's happening more and more and more, and to use your word, no one's batting an eye anymore. And so the more that it happens, let's take Republican officials for this example, the more that they have loved ones that say, hey, Dad, you know, I'm gay. Dad, I'm a lesbian. Whether you want to confront the issue or not, that train has already left the station. It's coming nationwide. I don't know if it's going to be a nationwide law or state by state, but that train's already gone. It's coming.
And how you get, yeah, I'm sorry.
You asked if haven't recognized that it's not a disadvantage to support it, but I don't think they're convinced it's an advantage to support it. And that may be the tipping point on the political
But
side.
I think if you look at
advantage.
Andrew Cuomo as an example, right? How has he managed to triangulate an effect? He's picked social issues, he's progressive. But on economic issues, he might as well be a Republican in the state of New York. Different politicians of different things could figure out, if you want to be calculating about this, this is a position where every trending poll says, get on board now. You don't want to be the last guy to leave the station on this. Right. And he got ahead of this.
His girlfriend, her brother, is gay. And so, and he's close to him.
Yeah.
So it makes it much easier to deal
David,
with it.
I wanted to ask before, I think the approach that, and when you say gay community, it makes it sound like there's this monolithic single group, but they have been largely, well, they've agitated for change. They haven't demanded with huge protests. What they've done is they've stated the case, and the social curve has took them along there. But now that the momentum's behind this, what's the next step to make this national? Because different states could take different approaches, one of which the referendum that we were talking about in New Jersey, that's not an appealing alternative, is it? So talk about what doesn't work and what you think would be the best way to further accelerate this issue nationally.
Well, just to discuss referendum. Referendum, many of the states now do deny their same-sex couples marriage. It's in their constitution, and it basically got there due to referendum. And actually, referendum, one of the tenets of our great constitution in this country is the protection of the minority from the whims, follies, and prejudices, if you will, of the majority. And putting something like that to a vote, allowing the majority to vote on the rights of a minority, it's not only unconstitutional, come on, it's mean. And so basically, those states, what we have to do, and what will most likely be the trajectory of this movement, is we went state by state until there's enough states to basically go to the Supreme Court and say, look, so many of the people within the LGBT community, the gay and lesbian community, are getting married. They're getting all these rights from their states. You have to change it. It's not too unlike what we saw in Loving versus Virginia in 1967, where the Supreme Court said, what do you mean you can't have an interracial marriage? Of course you can. And if that had, in 1967, been put to a referendum nationally, I can assure you it probably would not have passed, not in 1967. Mm-hmm. So again, referendum not the best way to go on anything. They're actually unconstitutional. But it is going to be a state-by-state issue until there are enough beans in the bucket to tip the bucket.
Okay, last question before we say goodnight is, our first guest said, he told Andrew he thinks 5 years. It'll be the law of the land. 50 states across that they all recognize equal rights here. You agree with this timeline?
Perhaps. I'm more conservative in that regard. I think that we're at the 10-year point now. It may be another 10. But again, the momentum is building, and it's a tsunami.
Like we
do
said,
not know.
it's
how
when,
long.
not if.
And it's one state at a time until we get to that point.
Well, again, congratulations, folks in New Jersey, and David, thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes. I appreciate it. Okay. When we come back, everyone, we will switch gears on RFL. A lot of major political news, from everything of Obamacare to some interesting poll numbers throughout here on issues of casinos, let alone some of the hot races this fall. Stay with us, everybody. RFL back after this.